Hello, everyone. I'm Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. Please, if you are new to the show, subscribe, like it, share it with your friends. My guest today is Elizabeth Rolfe. Elizabeth, also known as the spiritual investor, is a high-level wealth strategist with over 2 decades of industry experience as a former financial executive and energy trader. She retired at the age of 39, 10 years after a life-changing encounter with a kangaroo on a beach in Australia. She awoke to the knowledge that she could feel what the market was about to do. Elizabeth's spot-on intuition, paired with her financial acumen, propelled her to the early retirement and evolve into the core principles she now illuminates for others. You can listen to Elizabeth on the Spiritual Investor podcast. Elizabeth, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Yeah.
You have an interesting story, and this interview is going to be a little bit different than my regular interviews, as we are going to, or you are going to offer practical advice on how one could change his, her perspective on wealth through changes in energy nuances. But first, let's find out how all this started for you and why that encounter with the kangaroo was so life-changing.
Yeah. Well, you know how sometimes like our life changes when we feel like we're in a vice grip, like we're being squeezed. And it almost takes those kind of situations, like it's almost like I call it like a breaking the structure effect. And so I was working on a trading floor. So I was trading oil and natural gas. And so, it's a great job, doing well. And then I was in Australia on vacation and I just kept getting phone calls and just feeling the pressure of needing to check the email. Like I could not go away and feel like, relaxed about it. And then I'm sitting there on the beach and my wife at the time, she was there and we had they call it an esky in Australia. It's not a cooler, we call it here. Has all the drinks and has the food and everything in it. And then all of a sudden I hear something rustling in the bushes behind us. And I thought, oh God, what is that? Is that some person like hiding behind there or what? Because in Australia, it's like there are beaches that are just like no people, it's just and sure enough, a kangaroo hops out, comes in front of us and takes a Cheeto, like a little chip thing, out of my hand. And my wife at the time was like, she's like, that doesn't happen. Kangaroos, they don't like humans. And I don't know why. I mean, I do have a strong connection with animals. Like I have horses and all that. So I thought, well, this wild animal has literally like defied all odds and redefined its freedom because it clearly gets to live here in this, beautiful space and have its own domain and then just come down here and eat cheese and crackers or whatever from people. So then I said, you know what? Why don't I define my own freedom? Why am I just going to a job every day just because like I was taught that's what you're supposed to do? And it just hit me. I was like, I'm going to define my own version of financial freedom. Screw the world, what they think. I don't really care. I just want to, right now, my priority is to put away for long-term retirement and cover my basic cost of living. Like I'm talking about mortgage and groceries and all that. That was my version of financial freedom that I achieved when I was 39. Now that might not be somebody else's version of it, right? And then what happens is, your cost of living changes and things like that. But I was able to go through and achieve that just based on that. It was kind of like a portal opening, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where it's just like you get just a download of information. It was so strong. I never questioned it after that.
Yes, and it's funny because, again, nature is teaching us how to behave and how to interact with ourselves. And if we pay attention and we just stop and think about what we just experienced, then we're going to find the answers. But it's rare than when we do that. We just rush.
You're right. You're right, because there's not usually space enough to do it. And it has nothing to do with time, does it? It's space.
Yes. And we really, I mean, everyone from ancient times tells us to stop and enjoy nature and enjoy time with ourselves and take that break, longer breaks if possible, and observe. because observance will give us everything we need to know about the environment and, in the end, as I said, about ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Elizabeth, as everything is energy, investing is also part of the process and depends on our mindset and, personal energy to influence it either in the red or black. How do you look at this process?
The way that I look at investing is I look at it as completely as energy. The investing that we do kind of in, I'll say like the 3D world, is really just that's just the result of it. That's just kind of the tools that we're given to use. I look at investing as something that we get to do rather than something that we have to do, or that we feel like a lot of people don't invest because they feel like they don't know what to do, or maybe they're afraid they're going to lose money, or they think it's too late. Like, people have all these reasons. I say, forget all the reasons. And every dollar, if you were to look at every dollar that comes in the door as what percentage of that am I going to send back out into the world and allow it to expand? Because that's really what you're doing if you're investing. You're saying, hey, I brought this money in. We're all bringing money in based on what frequency we're on. I brought this money in based on the frequency I'm on. I'm actually going to take a small percentage of this and take it out of this frequency. I think of it like sort of throwing it out and just letting it expand. Now, there's a caveat with this, though. You don't get to throw it out and let it expand and then go check it every day and then beat yourself up. So that's the thing that people run into is they go, yeah, I want to be wealthy. I want a long-term investor, my legacy, all this. And then they go buy a stock and then next Wednesday they're beating themselves up because it went down $5. So it's like, you got to stick to it. You got to stick to the original plan.
Yes, indeed. And do you think that the strategies that apply 10, 20, 50 years ago do apply today as well in this turbulent investing environment?
It depends on what type of investing that you want to do. I think, if you're referring back to like the Warren Buffett principles and all of that, I incorporate a lot of those into my teaching, which is basically you're buying valuable stocks that you don't really need to go out and be looking at the portfolio all the time, right? I don't get into like the meme stocks and I don't do any day trading or anything like that. Nothing wrong with it. It's just you have to kind of pick which road you're going to take and stick to it. So yes, I would say a lot of that still applies. I think the difference today is the amount of information that's out there. So 30 years ago, you waited until the Wall Street Journal, until you heard it hit the front porch, and then you went outside and you looked at the very back, and then you bought the stocks based on it. Now we've got supercomputers that are digesting all the information. You got a zillion analysts who are going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. So the way that you look at stocks has changed, but the underlying principle that wealthy people wealthy people are wealthy because of investing much more so than they are because of earned income. And so I think that has been something that's steady over the last 100 plus years.
Yes. And do you have any practical advice in terms of how can we balance manifestation and practicality?
Well, when you say balance, what I find, and I've had the spiritual investor program for 7 years now. And so I've worked with, thousands of people in terms of just what's holding them back. What are the blocks, things like that. A lot of times people are very self-identified with wanting to sort of stay in the space of money manifestation and the energy of money. And I love it too. Like, it's fun, it feels good, all of that. But then what happens is there's no space, as you were just saying at the beginning of this, there's no space, which means there's no priority put on actually using the tools in the 3D world to sort of do that when you get to that energetic point. So on some levels, I think that people can actually stay stuck if they're too focused on the energy of money, because they get themselves into this state. They deal with a lot of money beliefs, all of that, which is great. And then you're at this state, at this vibration, but you're not, if you don't do anything, then I mean, where have you gotten yourself? And I think actually what it does is you see people go out and they spend a lot of money on manifestation programs and they end up in debt, and then they feel even worse.
Yes, and maybe they don't have anything else to invest in because they spend the money on the programs.
Right.
So if they want to start small, at least buy $500 worth of stock and then watch it grow. Yes, you are right. I heard you mention or talk about the new paradigm of quantum money. What is that?
Quantum money to me is money that comes into you effortlessly. So that would be, everybody's had the experience where they have walked in the room and they are just, you're typically you're in a good state. Obviously, if you were angry or whatever and you walk in a room, not many people are going to interact with you, right? You're in a state of being where the opportunities are just, they're there. And you're able to also step into them because a lot of people, like, we have opportunities around us, but a lot of people aren't going to be able to actually follow through with it, so it's being able to actually, it's almost like you don't even know that you're stepping into an opportunity. And so by not knowing that, you're showing up as your authentic self, which is full flow value, which then abides by the circle of abundance because you full flow value. And then what happens is if you can step into that opportunity and pull that back, then you're receiving equal value in that. And so that in itself is quantum money, which there is no such thing as money doesn't speak linear time. So that could happen in an instant. That could happen, I just had an opportunity just completely manifest itself that I have been just following the energy of just not even thinking about it for the last 2 years. And it's been wonderful. The journey has been wonderful, even without the result, right? And so that to me is quantum money. And I think we are moving into where that is the way that people are actually going to earn money in the future. We're not going to go out and have this specific job. What we're doing right now is we're cleaning up our conditioning. We are expanding our consciousness so that that is a greater energetic match to the money that we want to have come back in. A lot of people do need to go deeper, I will say, on their ability to receive, though, because when it comes to quantum money, just because it's there doesn't mean you actually can get it in the door. And a lot of that has to do with just your own self-identity.
So, in other words, if we try harder, is that a potential blockage for us receiving quantum money instead of letting it flow naturally?
Well, it depends on when you're trying harder, are you enjoying trying harder? Is that something where are you happily exhausted? Because if you're focusing on what's not, then you are blocking it. But if you're focusing on what is, but you're happily exhausted, then you still have that opening to that portal.
Interesting. Yeah. So if it's out of desperation, that's where the blockage comes in other words, correct?
It really comes down to attachment. So you can have a neutral excitement about something, which is no attachment. You can be excited and have no attachment, because there's a difference in being excited because you need the money to come in versus excited because you don't care how the money comes in, but you're just going to be so enjoy when it comes in that you just can't wait, and you're open to discovery. Like, there always has to be an element of openness, because otherwise then control is sneaking its way in, and control comes from the thinking mind. And if it's from the thinking mind, you're just recreating the same thing, the same scenario you have over and over again.
Yes, interesting angle. Thank you. And because we are talking about quantum, there is a lot of talk about quantum financial system. Is this related to what you are saying, or is a totally different aspect of future money?
Well, what do you mean when you say quantum financial system?
I heard it all over the place that the banks, that could be a parallel system which will parallel the existing financial banking system. So I wasn't sure if you know anything about it.
Oh, no, I have not. I think eventually, though, we're not going to, the banking system that we have now is not going to look anything like it looks now, which will probably feel like a different system to people.
And along the same vein, I mean, do you see the future money like blockchain related, precious metal backed, or anything else? And just to clarify something, in my opinion, at least, I consider money gold, silver, and potentially, Bitcoin. Everything else is fiat currency, an inflationary instrument that sooner or later ruins the wealth of individuals.
I think it's only our minds that want to just see like, oh, one currency is going to take over everything. All of a sudden it's going to be all about Bitcoin or all about gold. I don't think that there is any natural system of order, and that's what we're going through. We're going through a natural system of order, even when it doesn't feel like it. I've never seen any natural system of order actually go from many to one. Instead, it's going to go from one and actually go to many, which is going to be more choices, which is going to be a merging of one, right? So we even saw this, so we have multiple different currencies all over the world, but it kind of merges into one because we have kind of one central, but it doesn't like downplay the others, or it doesn't make it where it's not necessary to have the others. I think what's important for people to focus on is don't get lost in the detail of what the currency is going to be. Instead, protect yourself now by being diversified. Stocks, cash, Bitcoin, gold, commodities, all of these things, right? Because you never want to be in that position where, who knows, you could have guessed wrong with that. And instead, I would really look at what is truly happening right now, which is more and more we are able to actually exchange our beautiful, valuable energy for money. More and more people are able to do things just like we're doing right now and not having to throw a hammer or go into a job that they don't like anymore. And I think what I focus on is the expansion point that's going to be freedom in an overall life perspective for people, rather than I need to understand the detail that I'm probably going to be wrong about in 50 years.
I heard you talk about stop needing money. How that comes into the picture about what you are teaching?
To stop needing money. I don't think that we're ever going to stop needing money. I just think that money is actually going to, it is going to transform, like, you see like Picasso, right? And so Picasso, if you've gone through and you see like the really detailed paintings, and then you see the abstract paintings, and then at the end you see all of the really amazing paintings, which are on wood and cardboard and all of that. Like, I think our need to understand that as a separate process comes from us trying to control things. I think it's not that we're going to not need money. It's that we're going to be able to live a life that brings whatever it is, whatever currency it ends up being at that time, it's going to come to us in a more effortless way.
Okay. So the more we clear energetically ourselves and the environment we live in, that means manifesting will become much easier.
Well, manifesting, I think, that gets a little tricky because you can also manifest what you don't want. I will say people with greater consciousness, people who are out there, your audience, the people who are actually out there doing the spiritual work to look at their own conditioning, to show up in the world in a better way, to help more people, all of this stuff, all they're doing is we're just opening ourselves to be more transparent, to be more available. Right? We're just opening ourselves more and more as a conduit. And so I think that manifestation, I will say, is going to be more favorable for those people.
Indeed. And in the introduction, I mentioned that you do feel the markets. What exactly makes you feel? Did you find a a logical explanation? I mean, sometimes you don't need a logical explanation, but what exactly makes you feel the market if you reach a conclusion over the years?
I think the number one thing that allows me to feel the market is the letting go of the attachment to what the market does. And I think anybody can access that. I think that I have full faith in the market, in any of these currencies, actually. Like, I invest in Bitcoin as well. I have full faith in anything that I invest in. Right. So that's the number one thing. Whatever I invest in, I'm energetically connected to. And so I take responsibility for that. I don't invest in something and then go, somebody needs to tell me, give me a better answer, or it didn't work, and blame and all of that. Right. So I think that's the number one thing, is that I don't think of my belief in those systems as not any less than the belief that the sun is just going to come up. So when you have that sort of energetic flow with anything, then you can feel what it is going to do. And the market is just a conglomerate of billions and billions of decisions happening all at once. And, you do have, of course, we have like automation going on, but there's a certain emotional element to the market. It's a lot of emotional decisions that are going on all at once. That's why you see these indexes, which are like, based on, like, they're trying to measure the fear, right? And you can see specific instances that are happening in the world and fear. And so we can feel anything that carries emotion.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, the markets fluctuate a lot, and as you said, they are based on emotions, and sometimes they are triggered by black swans, and one has to be prepared for everything, and willing to accept a loss if necessary, and that is part of our psyche and our preparedness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Elizabeth, how do you, or have you encountered any other special events since you met the kangaroo? Have you had any other similar feelings and situations?
Yeah, I was on the financial plan to, meet my financial freedom goals by 39, and mid-stride, I'd say, around like 35, I was just like, I didn't really want to do it anymore. I just got this sudden overwhelming feeling. I was like, I can't keep going with this. And then I realized that the reason is because it was too much about money. It was too results oriented. That's actually when the merging of spirituality came into my life, because we ended up hiring someone on the trading floor who brought me all these spiritual books from India and was like talking to me about it and took me under his wing. We were like, teaching me about it. And I mean, that's why I teach money the way that I do, because it was really the merging of those two that kind of propelled the wealth plan even further. And so also along that time, besides that is when I got into horses. And so I'd always really liked horses, but I ended up going to a camping trip with a friend, and he had this white horse. And I got out of the car and I looked in this horse's eyes, and it was just, I don't know, again, I had another shift. And it was really quite an accident that I found out that white horse was about to be sold a year later. And I said, I lived in the city, right? I didn't have a place for a horse. And I said, I'll buy him. And it was like, what? What are you going to do with this horse that I couldn't ride? So anyways, ended up, I still have the horse. He's changed my life. He's changed many, many lives. This horse is a wise soul. So I would say I continue to learn from animals and nature. I would say that they are definitely some of my biggest guides.
Interesting. I know you spend a lot of time in Australia over the years. Any particular sites that impact you highly?
Any particular site?
Yes. Sites like
site
yes.
Oh, in Australia. I think I love the overall raw feel of Australia. I think I love the fact that you can drive 20 minutes out of a major city and then it looks like you're on a private beach, even when it's a public beach. I have found a lot of freedom in Australia also because I love the people. It's one of those things where I don't know if you've ever had this before, but the certain like culture of people just they tend to like keep coming to me like I don't know, or I'm going to them or something like that, and it just ends up. So I just keep going back to Australia. I'm getting ready to plan another trip actually here coming up.
Interesting. So, did you have the chance to meet any indigenous people and spend some time with them?
No, I have not. I do have kind of what I would consider an extended family over there, because my wife was from Australia, and so I have a large network of people over there. So I've spent a lot of time getting to know, especially like the older generation of Australia and kind of their value system, their culture, all of that.
Interesting. Elizabeth, do you have any spiritual daily practice?
Yeah, definitely. Meditation, that's a must have, 20 minutes of meditation, or even when I'm just like feeling I need some space, I'll just sit down for even an additional one. Um, Yoga, all types of yoga, Kundalini yoga, I have definitely a strong affinity for that. And I would say my practice really is kind of a overall, how am I managing my energy just overall? Like, again, we can feel what our energy is. And I actually feel like, even though, I'm out here making content, talking to people, teaching in the program, all that, I really feel like ultimately my job is just to manage my energy, because how can I show up with full value in every single moment? Because then I don't worry about the money, because the money will come to you if you just do that over and over again. It's actually a lot simpler than people make it.
Yes, I think it's a blockage majority of us have, and is very, very hard to remove it. Just pluck it out and throw it away and change your mindset. That's not easy.
No, it's not easy because, it's our conditioning and, it's our self-identity, it's all these things. But it also is our energy, and our energy level and the frequency that we're on feels very normal to us. And so we go out in the world and like, we can't really tell how we're blocking things.
Yes, that it's not again it's not easy.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had someone who brought you spiritual books. Other than that person, do you have any other contemporary spiritual mentor?
I would say Eckhart Tolle, definitely, just I don't know how you wouldn't just feel at ease and present in front of that guy, right? um, Alan Watts is just always Alan Watts. The information is just constantly, always moving through me. I still go back to, and I don't listen to this as much anymore, but throwing on an Abraham Hicks, like a YouTube clip, is just like, I mean, I don't know, can you get better than that? And, Esther's always like, pulling through some incredible information. But I just kind of, for me, it's an ongoing sporadic thing. Like I'm always creating, which I is working for me. So I'm always creating and working and meeting with people and collaborating. And I love it all. I love the co-creation process. So I don't have like dedicated time that I'm going to sit down and so like read a spiritual book or whatever. I really feel like it finds me, as much as, and maybe that's just because I'm seeking it on that level, but it will find me in like small bursts. And it's the synchronicity in my life. I think that's what blows me away, just, you know, it's incredible. And I think that's one of the ways you kind of know that uh you feel like you're moving forward when you're like in the synchronicities of things.
So, in other words, you are not a consumer of workshop on energy healing or other type of spiritual practice?
We have a lot of different types of practices that are inside of the Spiritual Investor Program. And so whether it's students or whether it's people that I'm always out there talking to people. I love working with people, as I said. So inside, we Kundalini yoga, breath work, sound healing. I do visualization exercises that I give the students. I give them guided meditations. We have kind of a plethora of practices that, because I don't really believe in telling someone, okay, you should do this. But what I do believe in is, can I make it available for people in a usable way that then can sort of help them manage their energy?
And because we are talking about your programs, anything else you could add that will help those who will listen today?
Yeah, well, I would say, if you want to, stay in the energy of this, I mean, even the students listen to the Spiritual Investor podcast. So whether you're new or whether you're in the program, I would say that's a good way to I design them specifically so that it's an energy up level. They're not very long, just kind of short, just, letting you, my goal is, can I help you change one thing that day? And then, that just kind of repeats itself over and over. So I would definitely say that, I teach these principles, a lot of these, again, in short clips on Instagram as well.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth, at this point in the discussion, I know that you are an optimist and you like to see the glass half full. But I will ask this question regardless. How do you feel humanity will fare this year from a spiritual perspective?
Oh my gosh, I feel like there has never been a bigger opening. Like, I feel like more and more people are just coming out of the woodwork that are just craving this, that are just wanting this, that are stepping into the responsibility of getting behind their gifts. And that is, to me, anyone who has recognized that they have a gift to give the world and they're moving forward on sharing that, to me, it is also their responsibility to learn how to receive money, because the universe wants to give you money. And so if you're out there giving your value and then you're blocking money, then you're actually ultimately blocking us from your value as well. And the world needs your value. The world is getting better and better because more people are giving value. So I would say, if more people can actually accept and be able to receive more money, the world will get better and better at a really, really rapid rate.
Yes, indeed. A lot of people are waking up these days, and light workers, as we like to call them, all over the world, not only in US or let's say Australia or Europe, it's all over the world. And they excite communities, they bring new ideas and light to the world. And yes, they have to accept of who they are. And sometimes they, or most of the time, they have to put a price on what they bring forth because they have to make a living as well.
Well, and that's the thing. I think we need to get away from have to make a living. We need to get away. They get to exchange their gifts, and the more money they make, the better off the whole world is, because they're amazing humans. And what happens when you give money to amazing humans? They do incredible things.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elizabeth, do you have a list of places which have different energies, spiritual calling for you to go to and visit this either this year or next?
Well, I walked across Spain. I walked the Camino in June. So that was definitely a spiritual journey for me and a cleaning of the slate. I knew when I was on the Camino, I knew that I would have big lessons when I got back. I just had that feeling. I thought, you know what, this is a journey, but the real uncovering is going to be when I get back, which, of course, sure enough happened. I travel quite a bit. I would say Australia for me, Lake Tahoe has always really, really had a special place for me, but it's probably because it's on that same line. California, has always been, I've spent most of my life in California. So, and I tend to go back to California at least once a month. So I'm kind of all over, I wouldn't say that I don't know that I've actually been to a specific place that didn't feel great, but it's probably because I didn't spend enough time there, to be honest with you.
Indeed. And regarding the Camino, were many people on that path with you, and have you done the full length?
Yeah, so I was with, there were 4 of us total. They started earlier than I did. My passport was expired, which I didn't know until it was a little bit too late. And so I was waiting on my passport to get here. So when my passport got here, booked that flight, got over there, flew into Madrid, and I took a train up and met them. So, but it was the perfect amount. It was the perfect amount. So I think I was there 32 days or something like that. And it was like nothing I expected, of course, never is. And then I had some friends who met me there, and then we continued to vacation a little bit over there and go over to the west coast of Spain. So I think anytime that someone can just, I'm really fortunate I was able to take the time out to be able to do that at this, stage. I mean, I had backpacked and stuff when I was younger, but I had not really taken that big of a break in my adult life.
Yes. We did one in 2021 and spent 4 months in Panama. It was a very interesting, lovely experience to be on the beach every single day in that type of climate. So yes, we're able to do that.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I've never been there.
Elizabeth, what would you consider an accomplished life?
The first thing that comes to my mind is connecting with people in a way that they feel seen and that they feel like they have been helped. I think that that's an accomplished life, because not that that's the only thing that you want to do, but because when you do that, it actually solves everything else. So it's like, and I guess that's kind of how the way I live a big life with a lot going on. I have a team, and we have a lot going on right now, especially we're doing a lot of in-person events this year that we're planning. And I'm able to do it based on simple principles like that. And I think that is part of why everything I do feels effortless.
Yes, you're right. Elizabeth, we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
Just thank you for the amazing questions, and for, putting this information and all the information that you're able to put out there to so many people. And I would say, in terms of final thoughts that I think will really, really help the people that are listening out there, it is to step back, as we talked about, as the observer. Stop trying to control money, the market. Stop trying to figure out every single detail. Stop trying to be the smartest person on the block, because really, really look at how much needing to know these intricate answers that aren't going to mean jack shit in 20 years. How much of that is your own element of control? Because that's you blocking money to you. And I'd much rather see you have a relaxed life and be a multimillionaire than be able to find out the next hack. And hopefully that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you very much for the advice and for changing lives and removing these financial and energetic blockages from those interacting with you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, like it. Visit claudiumurgan.com and spiritualinspired.ca. And until next time, love and gratitude.